Hi, what new possibilities will you create? Today's guests will share their story and provide insight. From my network to yours, let's get to it.
You can't go and do what you don't know exists as much as you can. Trying to expose yourself and other people. This summer, I am aware that many of the programs have gone virtual. So we can get you additional information on.
Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
That makes sense for you.
There you go.
Hey!
Hey!
Round two.
Hey!
That's my track.
So, Ranna, tell who you are. And Daud. Did I say it right?
Daud, you did.
Oh!
I'm impressed. That is a hard thing to do. Yes.
You prepped me, though.
You're good.
I got to keep my taking it. Yes, she prepped me, guys. Make sure. Jesse, you say my name wrong one more time.
Hey, I got a tricky name, so it is what it is. I'm used to that. Yeah, so my name is Ranna Daud. I'm the executive director of After School Allstars Puget Sound. And Jesse, I'm super, super honored to be on here with you. I've been watching these and gosh, you have some amazing people that you know.
You are in that loop. Yes, I love y'all.
Thank you.
And Lamar here connected to us on Michael too from Columbia Tower Club. He killed it, dropped the mic in that one session we had. It was super dope. No, I'm humble and appreciative. I love, I'm super passionate about what we do at After School Allstar. So I definitely wanted to focus the month of June on all the nonprofits that I'm closely passionate with, just for folks to kind of, they hear about it all the time from me, but to actually meet the faces behind the names is super dope. But you as a human, you as an individual, not just After School Allstar, that's one huge part of your life, but just you as well. Our conversation we have, and I am blessed to have a great network and really want to leverage this platform and have my network connect with my network, right? And provide just what's opening up for yourselves and what possibilities are you creating? I kind of changed my term because we're 3 months in now. So what have you been creating? And I find a lot of cases like yourself that get involved in nonprofits, the same cycle you go through to deal with and how to pivot. It's the same you do in life. And so folks can learn from those pieces of advice. And so how to get ready now tools for folks to kind of pick away and say, oh, wow, I like what she's doing. How can I apply this in my life? So thank you for
thank
joining.
you.
So,
no, and I should have already said this, but Jesse is one of our amazing board members for After School Allstar. So I'm really blessed to have him on our advisory board. He supports our organization. He connects us to companies and people and talent, time, treasure, all those things. So I just appreciate everything you do for our organization. And I still remember our first meeting in a coffee shop.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, that was a good one. I said I let my secret out with Haji last week. I was saying, hey, I was already sold before I got there. But I am curious from your mindset, you pinging me on email, like, this guy gonna meet me or what?
Hey, that's normal. Usually it takes 5 emails or so on average. In nonprofit world, you have to be consistent and resilient and persistent. Like, all of those things matter. Like, you can't get your feelings hurt. People don't respond, or else you could never survive in the nonprofit world.
So maybe helpful, a low ball, easy question. Maybe 2 parts. Let me give the audience here that don't know much about After School Allstars to kind of set the conversation tone for what we do and why it's so important. And then part 2, what else besides After School Allstar you was to open up for you possibilities that folks can learn you as an individual too. So After School Allstar, what is that?
Yeah, so After School Allstars is actually a national organization. We provide free comprehensive after-school programs, specifically for middle school youth in underserved communities. So what that means is when the school bell rings to let kids out of school, they come to typically the cafeteria at their schools where we meet. We give them a free meal, and then we provide them with academic support and tutoring, get their homework done, and then there's a variety of enrichment programs that they can participate in. So it's really all for the goal and intention of helping to close the opportunity gap. So we have a good time, and I think we could all remember when we're in middle school. That's a interesting time.
How were you in middle school? Do you remember?
I like wore Tasmanian Devil like cartoon t-shirts. Like I was kind of a tomboy, like no joke. I wanted to be a dolphin trainer. So I mean, I was a mess. I wanted to be a coach or a dolphin trainer. Like those were my life aspirations in middle school. So you can only imagine.
Hey Karen, my sister on here too. She probably remember me more in middle school than I remember myself. So Karen, feel free to embarrass me. I'm trying to remember middle school. What was I doing? Probably some trouble. Anyway, who cares? All right. But what I love is you're so passionate. You even tie this flyer here, your possibility right to the mission. This is you as well. So it fits. A lot of folks don't have that life to connect so much to what they do is in their dating life. We call it still life. I don't want to say day jobs, life, day life.
Yeah.
To personal, what they want to achieve. Like, how'd you find that connection?
I was lucky, you know, and I'll talk about my mom briefly. She passed away a couple years ago, so it's kind of heavy, but she did inspire me a lot to be a helper. And she was always someone that I think some people call them like misfits, you know, the kids who like didn't really have a place, the alternative school. She was always helping youth that didn't have a place or didn't fit into a box. And I was just super inspired by her, and she really paved the way for our family. I think all of my siblings and I have some sort of like need and desire to help people. And that's my mom. So
wow, so great mentor. As a mentor, you're right, because I tell you all the time. Same here. And she put, did you always want to be in this space? Did you kind of shift at me? So where we're at now, COVID-19, and a lot of people, as one earlier chat about pivot, you know the
post-corona pivot,
post-corona
PCP.
Yeah, you remember that one?
I've been watching.
And so I think by our career we pivot too, and you've done it, right? So So how'd you learn to pivot, and what led to that pivot?
Yeah, so we, you know, at After School Allstars, we had to pivot pretty quickly once COVID-19 hit. So we're an after-school program that has our programs in school sites. So you can imagine when the school sites closed, everything was like, what do we do now? So what we ended up doing is shifting to virtual programs for our youth. So we're doing all kinds of programs. We're doing art. We're doing a little bit of like sports and fitness. We're doing dance. We're doing social justice conversations, which is recently, but that's been a really important conversation and thing to offer to our kids. Too.
That's a big one, especially because our youth they fully understand, right? And they have tons of questions, and I'm sure, you know, our parents came from a different era. We saw those civil rights movements and so forth. These kids are coming from parents that, you know, are the children of that movement, and so for them it's like, whoa, what's happening? You know, hey, why am I not in school because of COVID? That's one thing. I miss my friends, and now I'm not going back to school. School years are over, and I won't see some of these friends. And now we got social justice going on. What's up you've been hearing? What's been happening?
Oh man. Well, I want to give a shout out. I see one of my staff on here, Juliet. Shout out to you. So we have some amazing staff who build these programs and design these programs virtually. And it was a big shift to move to Zoom and all of a sudden not do live programs. But I think, you know, what's been really powerful is the kids talking about what's going on in the news. We've had kids that say, you know, I feel like, you know, we're reverting back, you know, history's repeating itself. We have kids who say, you know, they're scared and they don't know, they don't want to be on social media. They don't want to watch the news because it's overwhelming. We have kids who feel really bad about the African-American and Black community because they know this affects them tremendously, what's going on in the world right now. So our kids are compassionate. I think it's been really eye-opening just to listen to them, to give them that space to talk about what they want to. Our program leaders have done such a great job really like shifting that conversation and maneuvering it to make sure kids feel safe and they feel like it is a space that they can talk about things and have opinions about things. And it's been really eye-opening. But our kids are resilient. They are resilient.
Like, with that being said, I'm very optimistic that they're experiencing this conversation that's going to really shape and mold them to really affect change more than more. So what we're doing today, we all want instant gratification, but what we're doing today is really affecting their mindset of how to respond to social and racial injustice. And your thoughts, reaction? What's your response? I mean, you're seeing it firsthand, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I was watching the town hall with former President Barack Obama, and I think he made a really good quote. Said,
he's still my president.
Oh, still my, right? I don't even like saying former. Can we just cut that? Yeah.
Just president. Yeah.
Our president. He said, when there's despair, you look at what the kids are doing, look at what the youth are doing. And I think that was a really powerful statement. He also said to make people in power uncomfortable. And I love that too. But I really think, looking at kids, looking at what they do, looking at their strength, like they are models to all of us. I think adults struggle with this sometimes more than our youth do, because our youth they're built resilient. They're built to go through hard things. And, the kids in our programs oftentimes are bringing a lot of baggage with them to school every day. So there's a lot going on at home. And so this is just more on top of that, right? It's more icing on the cake for them. And I'm not saying it's not hard for them. It absolutely is. But I just think they're built differently than us. And it's really powerful to witness and watch. And it's amazing.
Yeah, they're very action oriented. Like, to your point, like, hey, that's like, don't talk about it, be about it. What we gonna do? Right, and so they have the conversations, but to your point, they see rough things in front of their house, their eyes every day, at home, on the streets, you name it, and it's like, hey, what are we gonna do about it? Is it right? Is it wrong? You tell me, but they lean in. So, which is good. So that's good. Wow. So how do you find gratitude in general?
How do I define it?
No, define it, and how you find it. How you
find it? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Ooh, how do you find it? I think it's in so many things. But I think just right now, what I'm looking at when I'm trying to find like hope right now, I think I'm looking at the positive things I'm seeing. The police officers that are joining in on protests, the kids, the young, that little baby girl fighting. That image. Love it. Just love it, but also it's tragic, right? At the same time, like she shouldn't even have to do that. But I think it's just finding the helpers, right? Like, isn't that what Mr. Rogers said? Like looking for the helpers and looking for the people who are doing the work and, participating in protests. That's something that, like, I think I told my sister, I was like, it just makes my heart swell. Like, there's something about being a part of those movements and those demonstrations and those protests that make you feel like humanity is there, it's present. So for me, that's where I find the good right now.
Man, while you were talking too, I was thinking about, which is good because I think kids also help with, they can find positive, they can find positive light, and they will often remind us adults and say, hey, listen, it's gonna be okay. It's time to soothe us, and I'm like, okay, thank you, appreciate it. And to get to see that beautiful energy they all bring is wonderful. I love it. I see it all the time with Sebastian here. Mom's like, Sebastian. I'm like, oh. She wants to go crazy. I'm like, oh, it's over you. Like, you say that now. Right.
I think it's interesting though, because there's a lot of people out there that are not sure if they should talk to their kids about what's going on, or they're nervous about talking to their kids. They don't know what to say. And I think that's real, right? Like, no judgment on that, because I don't have kids of my own. I can only imagine what those conversations would be like. But we're having them with the kids in After School Allstars. And I think for most folks, you'd be pleasantly surprised by what your kids might say, or the questions they would ask, or the depth of their concern. I just think kids are super bright, and I think they can handle more than we think they can.
Do you mind sharing one?
Quote?
Yeah, what good questions? Yeah, what good questions there? Yeah, look at that.
Oh man, I got so many. I'm trying to think. Like, I think the biggest thing they were asking is like, why are people rioting? I don't understand why they're destroying their neighborhoods and their communities. And I think, we have to be careful with the answer to that one, because I don't think it's up to us to dictate how people want to express their feelings. At least that's how I feel. I think there's a lot of pent up frustration, even rage over how long this has gone on. Let's be real about that. Like, this isn't a new phenomenon. I think now it's just being recorded, right? It's being more visible. We have platforms like this that are unfortunately exposing folks and showing the realities of what's out there right now. And I think kids know that more than anyone. These kids talk about TikTok in every virtual program we have. So they know what's going on. They watch what's going on. I don't know. I think a lot of the questions though are around that. Like, why is it becoming violent, and why are people burning things? And those are real questions.
Yeah, I'm glad Sesame Street had a program. I mean, Sesame Street and CNN had a program and really dissected it, which was really good. And I've seen some other similar like clips that really dissected who actually attends the protest.
Yeah.
You know, the person that's very passionate about want to see change and have real concrete information of what they want to see.
Right.
As we know, historically it's proven that protests have led to action, especially to change laws and so forth, because we force them to listen, right? That's the healthy part. You got some folks want to come wreak havoc, right? Just because they want, for whatever reason, if they, far right, ultra right, or if it's just whatever their motivation is to go create destruction, that those folks exist. And you got the folks that just want to loot. They want to take advantage of that situation. They don't really care what the situation is. They just show up to loot. And professional looters, you add on a nice layer of folks actually being out of work for 3 months, right? So it's a lot that's happening out there. And to your point, it's no single answer, because there's no single individual that's participating. I was very proud to see my baby girl. She was out there at her school. They posted it out there. It was so cute. It was so cool. Awesome. I wish I was there to actually partake, but she did it on last weekend. And she showed a little bit. It's good. Like she's 16. She's dialed in. She's understanding what's happening. She wanted to be present. Great. So she did it. So to your point, and then I like how Barack said that the young are the ones that lead all these efforts.
Yes. I love
old
that.
People,
right. I like it better that way when it's like the young ones telling us what to do, right? I mean, the reality is they're gonna be our bosses someday potentially. So like you gotta fall in line in formation.
I'm tired of being a boss, and they can have it right now. Listen,
I know, right? Please take
you want this position, please take it right now.
Please take our jobs.
Right now.
I love it.
So to your point, and similar to what you're doing with the students, but even broader, how you staying connected, how you staying engaged is now, we're going into month 4 now. We're past 3 months now.
Right.
What are you doing? How are you doing it?
So we're doing wellness checks and calls for our students and our families right now. So our small team right now is working hard to make calls to all of our parents and families, asking them how they are, what they need. We're also distributing grocery vouchers to all of our families, which has been a huge blessing. And that was through the generosity of TikTok. So we're super lucky for that partnership. But it's been really enlightening, I think, for our team. I just had one of my team members email me today about a story of a family that she talked to today. And, her child was turned over to the state, and another family, they lost their job. So this grocery voucher means everything to them right now. So these are trying times beyond what is of our imagination, right? Like times are hard. Times are extremely hard now. So folks have like so many things stacked up against them, and we're just trying to be a small piece of a very big puzzle and trying to get the pieces back together for them. And that's been really rewarding, really fulfilling, but also really, really deep and hard. And you're hearing all these stories and all these things these families are going through, and it's tragic. There's so much going on.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, and I see our friend Kaplan Mowbray just joined the PCP. So we said it earlier. PCP.
I love that.
It's so I share that and highlight him because we're pivoting again. Because as long as we go, it changes. So, for example, in the beginning, you could kind of work from home. You kind of work with what you got. Kids kind of excited. They're not in school. They're okay with it. Now they're like, okay, Mom, Dad, I'm tired of seeing you.
Like, we've had enough of you. Yeah, this is a little much. So true.
And they're like, I'm tired of seeing you too. And so the whole looking forward to summertime is changed. There's no summer camps being kicked off. Like you mentioned, it seemed to me it's like like before you were confined to the school year and after school program. Now it's almost like, is it really a stoppage? Because like it's the need of the knife is growing more because parents are saying, hey, I really need an option besides just looking at you every day. And kids are like, I'm getting tired of looking at the same toy every day. Like I love my Megatron, but Megatron, you're getting kind of boring now. I'm going So to your point, I know we're starting to open up in Seattle specifically. I'm actually starting to happen here in Philadelphia, but that doesn't really give much relief to the parents and to the children themselves. Open up for them to still be the same. Right. To that point, where you see shifting even, what's next potentially? Yeah.
Well, I think I want to first address that. Like, I think kids shifting to Zoom and online learning and virtual learning platforms, it's hard. That's a hard shift for a lot of youth because I know I have a short attention span, so I can only imagine how our kids feel. So like even on Zoom calls at work, you know, they're back to back, and sometimes it is hard. The struggle is real with that. But I think our kids, you know, we have to think about how much time they can actually sit in front of Zoom or in front of Teams or whatever platform you're using, and really are doing that in an engaged way versus turning off their cameras. A lot of our kids have been a little shy and their cameras are off, and so we're not sure how connected they are. It's tough. So, you know, that's something that we're trying to work with and trying to figure out like the sweet spot. Right now we're doing 2 hours of virtual programming Monday through Friday. We are going to do a summer program, at least at one of our school sites. And we're looking at kind of a 2-hour block every day as well. But it's hard. You gotta stay on your toes. You gotta keep it interesting. You gotta use those cool features like whiteboards and polls and all those cool features that keep kids, you know, you're checking for learning and checking for understanding. Otherwise, we're just staring at screens and you don't know if it's clicking. So that's something we've been working on. And then considering like the new shift, the new pivot, the new PCP, I think, I love that, by the way. I think the new one is going to be really about like a hybrid model. So I'm not sure yet, you know, I think we're waiting for our governor and our school district to determine there's a whole bunch of models that they might do in the fall. And we're trying to figure out what model they feel comfortable with for their students. So one of the models is like, okay, we're going all the way back live. Another model is we're going to do 50% virtual. Another model is, you know, we're not going to have big gatherings of students. We're going to have some in the morning, some in the afternoon. So, so we're going to have a whole bunch of different ways that there's going to have a new look to the fall school year, I think. And so I don't think it's going to be 100% live. I could be wrong, or in person. But so we're trying to think about already is like, what does our programming look like? How can we still keep it engaging? How many staff do we need per school? So we're trying to make sure our kids are supported and they still have options, and they still have support after school. That is just, it's a tricky component to figure out. So, hey, suggestions are open. I know there's a lot of parents out there that probably have a lot of opinions about this. So
yeah, I'm surprised. There's a lot of parents on right now. I mean, ask some questions. I know Dean got to be popping in here like, hey, what do I? Because my kids are old, but I still think about this too. Because the biggest concern is, okay, time is moving, right? They're not getting younger. They're still aging too, right? So the development of their mind and their interest is moving as well. And so we don't want to. You can't pause. Like us need to continue to take action every day, continue to move, create possibilities, continue to lean and learn, read books and so forth. It's important that our children are in the same situation, and it's not working. They are taking way more content we can at a faster rate, right? And so how do we continue to make sure, at least our parents are not known to be teachers. They don't know, may not be creative, right? They're not sure what resources they look at. Sometimes get overwhelmed by a number of resources, and balance between, hey, I'm actually working and I have to be a parent. So I know a lot of stuff is happening where it was fine in the short term, but it's month 3. Like this is impact time, right? This is part that has enough time that impacts development, impact decisions, impacts on where they go. And I like that with School Allstar, what we encourage is creativity. We encourage to see possibility. We encourage them to tap into their creativeness. I think we don't want to miss that. even on the home side. Thor's reaction, guidance, perspective.
Yeah, I think we're in uncharted territory right now. Like there hasn't been a time in my life where anything like this has happened. So,
Correct.
I think everyone's looking for the answer and looking for the best way and the best approach. And I don't know if there is like a perfect answer. So I think being flexible, being adaptable, being able to shift quickly, being able to meet the needs of students right now. I think that's our role, is to listen to what they want, to ask questions, and then to just think about what's best for them. But also something that's been really interesting for us is our schools are also struggling. They're overwhelmed. They had to turn into this new virtual learning environment very quickly, and were unprepared to do so. We all were. So, we've heard a lot of families, when we're calling them, say, like, we haven't heard from our school yet. We don't have a lot of touch points with our school. Like, that's kind of scary. I had one school that said they've successfully reached out to only 60% of their school population, which is scary because that's 40% of your students that you don't know what they're doing right now. So, these are really hard times, on not just for learning loss of our students, but, our teachers and our educators. This is a hard time for them. And I know they're doing everything they can. But it's why nonprofits like us exist, to support and to come in where they can't, and to connect with our students, to make those calls home and make sure they're okay and see what they need. This is a trying time.
Yeah, get to your point, because you think about that, and you think about, we used to go test to progress in that school year, and make sure we feel comfortable when they met the criteria of that school year, the academia, that they can advance next year.
Right.
So, and you think about, growing up in child development, we almost all look back. It would take time to look back and say, when we struggled in a course or class, it was probably because of some life event that took place at the same time, right? And when that life event was happening, I wasn't really present in the room next to the teacher was teaching that lesson. So as a result, it's a gap, right? And the reason I'm sharing, people wonder how I know this stuff. I used to have a tutoring business. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No.
Oh, I had a Huntington Learning Center. Did you know that?
Learning something new. Learning something new about my board member.
See, that's why I'm attached to it. It's like I love child development. It's passionate for me. Seeing little faces and seeing how weird they can literally dice. Huntington Learning Center was to test, and you see where they struggle in their studies, math or reading, right? And then we don't know the reason, but knowing some event in their life that happened, divorce,
right?
Death, worse. Type of events that happen. I'm wondering, oh my gosh, how many folks are going to be impacted from COVID and the tutoring, and it's going to be needed in our system. So,
exactly.
Additional need from programs like After School Allstar, including private tutoring in organizations. So I see that coming pretty aggressively, if not already.
Me too. It's definitely a time where we need to tap on as many organizations and providers and nonprofits. This is the time they're needed, which is also interesting because it's the time when nonprofits are struggling the most too. So we're needed the most, but financially we're impacted the most right now as well. So, you think about the economic downturn and how that negatively impacts also nonprofits. So a lot of our funding comes from the generosity of corporate organizations and private contributors, and that it's painful right now. It's not an easy time for nonprofits, and there's some nonprofits that are doing really well. Like the food banks are, from what I hear, doing very well, because that's an obvious basic necessity and need right now, which makes all the sense in the world. But then there's organizations like Allstars who, yes, we're providing a service, and yes, we shifted quickly to provide grocery vouchers and virtual programs, but some folks don't see that as necessities. So I think this is where it gets hard as a nonprofit. We're trying our best to remain relevant and make sure we're shifting for the needs of our kids and our communities that we're serving. But we still need support from the community, and that's where that's where this all kind of intersects. It's so much is going on, so much is needed. Nonprofits are needed more now than ever, but their support looks different right now for a lot of them.
Dude, that's why I'm glad we have people like you that's super passionate, because you lean in 100%, and we see as on the board, And I know the students and the people, your staff see it too. Them joining on right here is a testimony to that too. It's hard to stay relevant. And then as I see the shift and the need, we have to be there.
Yeah.
And so I really seeing a shift in demand coming heavy, full storm our way. The people are waking up to that, oh my God, my child's been home for 3 months. And they work at some folks don't have in the sector you're helping.
Yeah.
A lot of cases are the front line. So they don't even have the chance to be home, to be present. So it's compounding. And I guarantee you a lot of schools you refer to that struggle to stay connected, that they're the most impacted. So you take on most impacted from the school that having the resources and technology in place for their children. Take on the fact that, hey, I'm in the front line. I can't physically be here. I have to still continue to work to provide for my family. And the whole point of our program is to make sure the child's not home doing nothing, getting in trouble, and they actually are home more.
Exactly. And, you think about the population we're serving, a lot of our families are essential workers. So they're working while their kids are home alone. And that's a whole nother layer of complexity.
I call it frontline. You're right, essential workers. You're right, essential workers. You're right. Exactly.
It's a whole nother level to this. And so, we used to talk about the danger zone. And after school programs, we always call it like the danger zone between 3 and 6, where kids get, involved with, drugs and sexual activity and sometimes violence and crime. And so we've always said, and that's been proven through data, that it's an essential time for after school providers to provide a safe space and engaging programs and positive activities after school. But now that time is just widening, right? Like, this is a huge amount of time where a lot of youth have discretionary time, and yes, they're checking in with their schools, but for most schools that we're serving, it's about 2 to 3 hours of virtual learning, and that's it. So that's a lot of time of the day that is up for whatever. Well, what's interesting, a lot of people ask us, like, why do you focus on the middle school age group? And for me, and what research has shown, is that kids start making the decision to drop out of school starting in middle school. So it's really the last best chance to make sure students are prepared for high school and post-secondary success. Like, it is critical to capture kids' attentions and engagement and minds in those 6th through 8th grade years. It's when they start developing habits and, their norms and who their people are, who their friends are, and what direction they want to go. It was a pivotal time for me, I remember. So we have to, it's a critical time for us to not only intervene, but just provide opportunity and to give kids a platform, to make sure kids have voice and to make sure they're learning. And it's all about competency building, right? Like, a lot of people talk about youth like they need to be saved. I don't think youth need to be saved. I think they are good. We just need to make sure that they have the same opportunities as their more affluent peers, that we're providing the resources and just the platform for them to have a voice and to build their skills and their competencies. And that's something that I think not a lot of middle school kids have, something like that.
I'm glad you said it, because the only thing that we think about creating possibilities, and I share often in my chats about, it starts with fear, your mind don't block her, and you're seeing it and getting them a chance to see beyond. So I appreciate that, and we have to continue to do it. And I appreciate folks here donating to help us continue to do that.
Yes, thank you.
Because like, literally we can expose her. I'm sure it's always all walks of life. Like, people are feeling trapped, like physically trapped. Oof. I'm like, well, technically you're not physically trapped in the box where you're at. You can literally walk outside, right? Yeah. You want to be precaution, you want to be smart, wear a mask. So a lot of times the people in their mind are so trapped and they can't see past. And that's in their career, that's in their decisions, relationships, that's in everything. And I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, you made me think about, I watched the Oprah Special yesterday and today, and I think it's like, where do we go from here is the name of it, something like that. And there were so many, the end of the last series was a question to all the panelists asking, like, what can people do now, especially our white allies? What can they do? A lot of people, I'm going to go ahead and guess that every person of color in corporate America right now is being asked the question, what can I do? How can I support?
Yes.
What do I say? What should I not say? And that's a heavy burden for our, corporate America employees of color to burden. It's not their burden anymore. So what I think, it was really interesting, the answers that were there. I mean, the answers were, of course, police reform and being bold, but also it was like complete your census form. It was call on the Senate to pass the HEROES Act, which is about making sure the election actually happens in November, because that is also a thing. Right, that is real.
Real talk.
And it funds political power for the next decade. So that census is so important. Voting is so important. I think one panelist was talking about in honor of George Floyd, for the 9 minutes that he endured someone's knee on his neck. The advice was to get 9 people to register to vote, to get 9 people to fill out their census form, to write down 9 things that we can see for change in our community and ways that we can impact that, to send the mayor and your city council members suggestions on 9 things that they can do to support this movement. I thought that was so powerful. I can't remember everyone that said all those things, but she had some amazing panelists on there. And then, Killer Mike, right? Like, he had an amazing speech, and he talked about now is the time to plot, to plan, to strategize, to organize, and to mobilize. And that is something that I was like, yes, that is exactly what needs to happen. So there's so many people out here like fighting this fight and working so hard. And I just appreciate everyone's voices. Like, it's like a rallying cry right now. It's outrage, right? Everyone deserves the right, especially our folks of community, to be outraged. And it's up to, and I can say this, I'm white as well. It's up to our white allies to step up right now. To do more and to be active in a movement. We can't sit down idly. We can't be quiet. We can't, we can't be scared. We have to stand up and we have to do more. And especially as I'm sitting here in the seat of as an executive director of a predominantly youth of color serving organization. And I understand my privilege in that too, as a half white person. And I don't think we can tread lightly on that. Like, I have an onus and responsibility to do as much as I can for our youth, to advocate for them, and to support them any way I can. So this is a real time. This is a real time.
Yeah. But you hit the man. You dropped some. See, told you dropped some jewels right there. Plot, plan, strategy, mobilize. I'm gonna use that because literally, and we are being extended and exhausted, and I can't even count how many phone calls I've answered.
I can only imagine.
Or text messages, or emails, or I'll stop there.
No, but it's true, and I think it's good that you say that, because I think sometimes folks don't know what to do, so they're turning to their Black and brown brothers and sisters and asking, like, what can I do? What should I do? And really, do the research. Look at history. Look at what you can do. Watch specials like Oprah, whatever you can do to learn about what you can do and how you can be an ally, but more importantly, how you can be an accomplice, right? There's a difference between an ally and an accomplice. And I think there's just so much we need to do right now as humanity, as a human race, that we got to embrace it, whether folks want to or not. I think change is coming, but it's going to be a long road. And I hope people are in it for the long haul.
I'm going to share one that came to mind that's a big one, and I've shared with others too, is people are quick. It is how humans are. We're quick to point the finger and point at someone else about what we see they're not doing. It's very easy because how we design, we see things, we look at that, and we don't pause to see what we can do. So, for example, those officers and the ones that are watching and not stopping. That happens every day in corporate America and the streets with our family members.
Yes.
Oh, if people say something and you don't say something, you're just as guilty. And so some people at a minimal, stop doing that. The same way as someone putting their knee on his neck and watching him be suffocated, the same way as you seeing someone being performance review problem, that's not a bad performer. Or someone says something that's very inappropriate, right? We have rules on someone saying something that's sexually inappropriate or things like that. But if someone says something inappropriate, and you know it's inappropriate, and I don't care if it's your family member, I don't care if it's your mom and your daddy, I don't care if it's your cousin, and you hear and see that and you say, I'm not going to tolerate that. And that's in that moment, that's when folks are really learning how to be anti-racist, as opposed to just, because you said quiet, you're just as guilty as the person right there watching that person knee on his throat being suffocated.
So true.
Anything you want to share with this group here that you think about before it's called, or this what we've talked about so far?
You know, one thing I also heard recently was an analogy about privilege, which I thought was really powerful. It was white privilege is swimming in a stream, but with the current. So you're going with the flow of the current. The Black experience is working against the current. So you're paddling harder, you're working harder. Sometimes you're getting pushed back by the current even more. And it doesn't mean that white people aren't struggling, right? And this was also on Oprah's special last night, but I thought it was such a powerful analogy. It doesn't take away that white people also struggle and go through things, but people of color are struggling against a system that's pushing them back constantly. So you might be struggling as a white person, but as a person of color, you're struggling twice as much, if not way more than that, because you're going against the current all the time. And I thought that was such a powerful, and I think Nicole Hannah-Jones, she was the founder of the 1619 Project. She said that, and I want to give her credit for that, because I thought that analogy was so beautiful. I love it. Anyway,
it's true. I always say, I argue that same analogy is saying, not only go against the current, white folks have a start, a 10-second lead start. You go with the current 10-second lead start, you gotta wait 10 seconds and go against the current.
Woof. Dropping gems on them.
Yep, it's true.
So true, Jesse. That's so true. So true.
And to your point, is as humans, we always want to find a way to do comparison. And to your way you said it, we're not, Black Lives Matter does not mean White Lives Matter.
Yes.
All lives matter. It's like saying, Brenda's like me asking you, do you love me? I love all people.
Of course I love you. Yeah.
I love all people. Well, yeah, that answers
that kind of hurts, doesn't it? You're like, but you don't just love me? Okay.
Exactly. It's like, come on, like, and so like when people hear that, like, oh, you're right. Like, yeah, like listen to your own stuff. It's like you're providing a response that doesn't go with the question that's being asked. So it's no comparison to it's a lot of challenge. You add on combined challenges.
Exactly.
Gender and other diverse elements. You disability, military. You just keep adding on other layers. Then you add more complexity. They all matter. Sexual orientation, you go for it, right? So to that point, totally acknowledge, totally realize, but it does not take away from the importance of that. Our life matter, and where we all sign this contract called following the legal law and how they work, and we operate with the same mode of understanding we all be protected, and we're saying we're not. So that's not right. So why am I playing against a rule book that is not built for me, right? And so all what people are asking for is, hey, make it equal, like equity in this. So yeah. So good.
You know, we talked to our kids the other day about the difference between equality and equity, and that was a really interesting conversation. And our kids were, I think some of them got it, some of them are still learning and absorbing it, but what a powerful opportunity to talk to our kids about the difference between those things. And I think our staff did an amazing job with that conversation. And it's just, I love this stuff. This is like,
let's be real. We're teaching our adults the same.
Okay, thank you.
Literally, we're saying that literally the same way you're probably teaching the kids. We literally are doing the same thing because folks don't know. Right,
so
and it's actually being taught the same way. Pictorial pictures, like literally.
Those images are like lifesavers for adults.
We're the same. Adults are same as children, so we understand we and get it. So imagine the impact that you're having on that youth.
Yes.
That when they become in our position of age, they're like, "Oh, I learned that when I was." Like they really learned it. They experienced it. So the pivotal moment in their life. And they see these hard lessons being learned about the differences. It's in their core database.
Yep.
So when they become older, this is like no duh, of course. Like my nieces are watching it right now. They're hearing the same thing where I'm literally educating adults, professionals, 20 years into their career about the differences. and how our tools don't work, and how they make tools that work. And literally today's conversation, I mean, even down to review. I mean, even think about it, even from reviewing a resume to performance review to promotion decision to internal transfer decision to you name it. Some inflection of unconscious biases exists. So now saying now it's conscious. Now what are you gonna do about it? To be present. And you see those kids' faces every day. What does present mean for you?
Oof. I think being present, especially as a mentor on the other side or a staff, I think it's listening. So much listening. It's listening. It's being visible. It's finding a way to interface with kids with technology. It's being innovative. And Jesse, you said it at one of our board meetings. It's being relevant. It's remaining relevant. It's making sure that we're not, turning our backs right now because things are hard and complicated and we have too many things to figure out to remain relevant. You have to make yourself relevant as an organization right now. And I just think there's so much power right now in being present.
Yes.
And empowering our youth. Like, they're gonna, as cliche as it sounds, they are going to be our future. I definitely think it's important to invest in them now. If we want things to change, this is a great time to do it with our youth. Like, they are learning things now that as adults, to your point, Jesse, some adults are just learning.
Yes.
And these kids are
a lot.
A lot. Like a lot.
Probably 70% of them.
Seriously. I'm at our office right now, and this is what we call our donor wall, our donor appreciation wall. So because we're in Seattle, we got the visual is this. By the way, Miss Daisy created this beautiful umbrella image, one of our team members.
Nice.
And so all of the raindrops are names of our donors.
Oh, I love it.
And it says, I think it's backwards. It says, thanks to our friends and supporters for making it rain with their generosity.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so that's our donor wall. We probably need to add some folks on there. It's been, the past 3 months we have not been in here, so I'm probably a little behind on that.
Oh, good point. Advice or methods for you to kind of manage through those struggles and to get to your success you're at?
No, that's a good question. I think, one thing I wanted to mention today that I haven't mentioned is around nonprofits and the disparity of leaders in nonprofits being predominantly white. And I know I'm not really answering your question, but
go ahead. That's still good. That's still some endurance. Go ahead.
So there's a recent study, and I think it was in 2019, where they surveyed, I think it's like 75,000 nonprofit executives. And let me start with this other side. 75% of those executive directors were white. 9% identified as African American or Black, 6 identify as Hispanic or Latinx. So, that's a big disparity. And if you think about it, the majority of nonprofits are serving predominantly people of color or youth of color. So there's definitely a disparity, and obviously I am one of those. I could be perceived as white very easily, and I am half white. But I think that is something that we need to talk about more in the nonprofit industry, that we need leadership that's reflective of the students we're serving and the people that we're serving. And there's a big disparity there. Now for myself, I kind of fell into the work, to be honest. And I think your last nonprofit guest said the same thing, that I don't think there are some people now many people now who are actually going to get degrees for nonprofit management. I'm not one of those people. My background is in sport management, of all things. Yeah. I wanted to be an athletic director or work for a professional sports team in community relations or something like that. And that was my goal at that point. But I had to get an internship to finish my degree. So I found After School Allstars, which used to be called Inner City Games. It's founded by Arnold Schwarzenegger, kind of a fun random fact. And they used to do weekend sports clinics. So I fell into this organization because I love the tie with youth and sports. And then in 2003, we shifted our focus to what we now are offering, which is comprehensive after-school programs. So it's sports plus a whole lot more. So my point is, you know, a lot of us, like, we go to school for one thing and we end up doing something else, and that's okay. And we just talked to our youth about that the other day in our virtual programs, that just because, you know, you go to school for something doesn't mean you necessarily have to do that thing. And being flexible, being adaptable, having transferable skills is really important these days. So,
yes.
you know, that's my journey is different. I kind of fell into the nonprofit work, and here I am, I think 14 or 15 years later, still in it. So it's a journey, you know, and I think I fell into it because I love kids. I love youth development. I love programming. And I just think there's so much value in the work that's being done through After School Allstars.
What leadership opportunities do students at After School Allstar have?
Oh, it's a great question. So we have a National Youth Advisory Board, where one student at each chapter, there's 19 chapters in After School Allstars all across the United States. And there's one student that is selected to be kind of like our ambassador. So they're our student leader, and they have a, we call it an all-star leadership university every summer, where they typically go to LA and they do a whole leadership development week. This year they're doing it virtually. It's sponsored by Essentia Water, who's one of our great partners. So this year it's going to be virtual. They're making it work, which I'm super proud of them. They're adapting, they're flexible. But yeah, that's one opportunity. And then we also have youth advisory councils at each of our school sites that we serve. So typically those councils have about 5 to 10 different students, and they go through leadership development. They're learning new skills. They're learning kind of Robert's Rules of Order. They're learning how to conduct meetings. It's pretty awesome. Our staff do an amazing job with those. So leadership is also woven into all of our programs and curriculum. So yes, there are these you know, predetermined leadership groups that we invite students to, but there's also leadership development and social emotional learning that happens throughout all of our different programs. So thank you for that question. It's a great question. Donate to social justice causes, and I should have said that. So there are so many different organizations that are fighting for social justice right now. There's also the memorial funds on GoFundMe of all of the recent victims from you know, police brutality. So please look those up. Please support those families, and then support those causes that are making a huge difference in this fight for social justice. There are so many worthy and amazing, phenomenal organizations that are doing very difficult work right now. So please consider that too.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head earlier too, like what Haji mentioned last week, is we can get back in so many different ways, and where you can physically give your time, where you can, you know, be on boards, where you can stand for a cause, where you can take actual action yourself, you know, go vote, you know, feel like the census, go. I did mine recently. I was in trouble, so I got yelled at and I did it. I know. And then, you know, also, you know, like where you can't sit yourself and say, hey, you know what, I can't physically do this right now. And, you know, I still want to be a part. I still want my energy a part of this effort. I love how she said, how she mentioned, like, you know, giving money to organizations where, hey, I'm still in part of what Actual Allstar is doing. You know, I can't be on the board, but I love what you guys are doing with the middle school children. I'm all in. Here's my contribution, because your energy is still attached to that investment. It's
absolutely.
I don't give us a penny. I don't give you a dollar. If it's $5 or, you know, $5 million, all are beautiful, but all of them. It's the energy you put behind that investment, and you're literally making an investment into our future, as you just heard my little guy here. That was so cool to have him say that. Like, so, oh man,
He did that perfectly.
I'm gonna make that into a commercial for sure. Yeah, stay tuned, y'all. See on my Instagram live story. Like, who's the future? I am.
I love that. He said it so confidently too. I loved it.
Could you see him on the screen when he said it? Or no? Oh, that's even cooler.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
Oh man! Wow. Well, I'm not gonna keep you too much longer. It's already put you an hour and a half. You are amazing.
You're amazing. Thank you so much, and thank you for everyone that joined. Andrea, sorry I didn't give you a shout out yet. Thank you all so much for joining and listening in. Jesse, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. You are amazing. I kept watching his Thursday chats, and I was like, "Oh gosh, these guys are amazing." You're networking.
You are too. I was
your
right.
people, man. Oof.
You are too. You killed it. I knew you would, because you just share perspectives to people, man.
Thank you so much. This has been great, and I appreciate everybody. I know we're probably preaching to the choir when we're talking about things that you can do right now. I'm imagining most of the people on this are already doing the work. So keep doing it. Thank you so much for what you're doing for the community. Thank you for those of you that donated to After School Allstars. It means the world.
That was huge.
And more importantly, please support these causes for social justice right now. I mean, there's so much work to be done, and there's a lot of road ahead of us on this journey. So I appreciate everyone, and we're going to keep doing our part at After School Allstars and empowering these youth, giving them voice, and giving them a platform to talk about these difficult conversations and dialogue about current events. So please know we're going to keep doing that as much as we can. And special thanks to the staff, Miss Juliet, Miss Daisy, Miss Jessica, Mr. B. You guys are amazing, and honestly, we couldn't do it without them.
Oh, that's what's up. Oh, man. And thank you. Can't do without you. Like, you put your heart and soul into everything. I feel in every email. I feel in every message. I feel
all those emails.
Hey,
all
we
those.
love them, man. We love it. And the pictures you put the kids, trust and believe. We feel your energy, and we feel that you're truly dialed in, and you're 100% authentic, and you really truly care, and folks see it. So that's why I sign me up. I'm here, That
was a good day. That was a good day when we got Jesse.
Yeah.
And shout out to all of our board members who joined today. Thank you so much. All of our board members at After School Allstars. You are essential. You are essential right now, workers. We appreciate you. Thank you for everything you do and all of your support.
You do put us to work.
Don't get it twisted. I'm not gonna let you just sit there as a board member. You're gonna work. Jesse knows you're gonna work. Jesse's like, dang, another email? Yeah. She's asking me for money again? Yep.
And they action-oriented emails too. Like,
there's a lot of highlighted action items. We do that a lot. Thanks. That's a Christian Tinder pro tip. Thank you, board chair.
We just gotta keep at it. We gotta keep the program becoming. Keep the kids center focused. We got it going. So thank you so much. Pleasure everyone for joining.
Thank you, everybody.
More to come. Appreciate you. Take care.
Bye, Jesse. Thank you all.
Hello, this is Mr. Rose. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to come back every week for new podcast content. Special thanks to my daughter and her team and all their hard work putting this content together. Be engaged. Be aware. Be ready. Be heard. Thank you.